Welcome everyone to today's webinar. And today we're excited to explore the power of digital assistants in revolutionizing your PeopleSoft experience. We have also set up a Slack channel, Cloud Coaching North America, in our developer workspace that you can access at the QR code or the link on the screen. The channel will remain open after the webinar for you to contact us directly whenever you have any questions. And before I pass it off to presenters, I wanted to let you know that we have more amazing webinars just like this one coming up. You can check them out either with a QR code or the link in the chat. Today's webinar will be presented by Sapriya, a senior cloud engineer. Without further ado, I'll pass it to Sapriya.
Hey everyone, this is Cypria, a senior cloud engineer from the Virtual Code Innovate team. So what we're going to do is that we will go ahead and then talk about the digital assistant platform. And then we'll be discussing about the architecting the solution for private and public PeopleSoft instances. And then we'll be talking about how you can configure your PeopleSoft instance to set up the chatbot on the web page. And then we'll be deploying the chatbot on a PeopleSoft web page, followed by debugging the custom components with the help of Visual Studio Code and Ngrok. And then we'll be talking about the Code Innovate program. And then we'll be closing out with the question and answers. So feel free to drop in any questions you have in the chat window. We'll definitely take a look at it and then answer all of these questions. That being said, let's get started. What is a digital assistant? A digital assistant is an AI-powered text and a voice interface that can be deployed on different channels, which is including channels like web, mobile, or a voice assistant like Alexa. So you could use the language of your own choice and then start accessing the chatbot. So the reason why we all use the digital assistant is that it is like having a personal assistant, which is available 24/7, 365 days, right? So it can save a lot of time for call center operations by helping the agents focus mostly on the important task while automating all of these mundane tasks through the chatbot. So it helps you to have a conversation in the most natural and conversational way. So here are some of the key components of the digital assistant. So one of the main component is that we do have channel configurator. That means like you could have the digital assistant platform exposed on digital assistant exposed onto multiple channels, which includes channels like Alexa, Google Home, or probably like Slack or Facebook Messenger or a web channel in general, right? We do have Dialogflow engine. So the Dialogflow engine is wherein, like, let's say a user is talking to the digital assistant, and it is able to give you a response in a way which is more personalized to you. And it needs to also understand the context of the conversation. So let's say if I ask a question about having a cheese pizza, so I want to like order a cheese pizza. So it already needs to understand the context of the conversation that we are trying to order a cheese pizza, and it is not supposed to ask the same question again. What kind of pizza do you want? So for that purpose, we do have Dialogflow engine. So we do have like a data integration platform that means like you can connect to any backend systems. And if the backend system is exposed to any REST services, you could expose that REST services and then access those backend systems from your digital assistant. We will dive into each of these components further in detail when you see the demonstration. And then we do have conversational AI engine. That means like the machine learning, cognitive services, and natural language processing algorithm. Everything is all baked inside the system. All you need to use is that like you need to know how to access the digital assistant and then get a basic feel of it before you could get started. So let's take a look at what a digital assistant architecture would look like. So let's say I have SCM, ARP, or any third-party application. I do have a SaaS application or any third-party system which has like REST endpoints exposed. So you would be able to access using the digital assistant, and then you can expose that digital assistant to a channel. So let's think about it this way. Let's say I have a digital assistant that means a chatbot. I'll ask a question related to HR related system. So let's say I need to get payroll data or know my absence balance, right? So I would ask a question to the chatbot, and the chatbot is able to respond to you with that particular response with that particular task. So let's say if I want to submit my expenses, I can call the expense chatbot and then be able to get the response. But what if you ask a different question related to probably like purchase orders, right? So the expense chatbot will not be able to give you the right response. So in that case, you need more than just a chatbot. So now I'll start referring to chatbot as a skill, and then digital assistant as like a master bot. So the digital assistant is like a master bot wherein you could have like multiple departments access, like multiple departments can have multiple skills, while you can combine all of these skills into one digital assistant. So the digital assistant can connect to any third-party system or any backend application as listed here, and then get back the response in the most natural and conversational way while hiding a lot of complexity in the backend. Here, let's talk about a PeopleSoft chatbot. So in PeopleSoft, it is similar to what architecture I've mentioned in the previous slide, wherein you have a web channel interface wherein you're asking a question to the chatbot related to your leave balance, right? So let's say I'm asking a question about leave balance. So and this is being captured using NLP engine. It is categorizing into entities, intents, utterances, using the natural language processing engine. And then it is giving you the relevant response through the dialog flow. And from the dialog flow, let's say if I need to get some data from the backend PeopleSoft system about my absence, then it is connecting to the Node.js container. So we can upload our own Node.js custom component. And then this has like the PeopleSoft library and the ODA SDK. So what we would do is like we would connect to the custom component, which in turn connects to your backend PeopleSoft application services. So which is exposed using chatbot integration framework. So what is a chatbot integration framework within PeopleSoft? So this framework helps you to connect to an ODA platform. It is a way to pass the authentication from PeopleSoft to the ODA console. And it is a framework for building your RESTful services used by the Oracle Digital Assistant. And it also has like some libraries of JavaScript that provides services to the ODA. So now let's see how do you architect your solution. So let's say you have a public PeopleSoft instance and a private PeopleSoft instance, right? So for each of these, the architecture might be slightly different. But then like one approach which you can think about is what we have mentioned here. So let's say we have like a public VCN wherein I'm deploying my PeopleSoft environment here. So how do I expose? So basically, like I do have an Oracle Digital Assistant, which is exposed using the web channel interface, and then it is in turn connected to the Dialogflow engine, and the Dialogflow engine is connecting to the ODA custom component, as I've mentioned in previously, right? So the ODA custom component is connecting to the backend integration broker gateway. So the way it is authenticating is through the proxy user. As you can see here, we do have a proxy user which is used in order to authenticate and then get back the responses using the REST services from the backend system. So similarly, when you think about the private VCN, right, the chatbot is exposing the RESTful services, but then this RESTful services can be exposed through an API gateway. So when you look at the API gateway, that means like you're able to get the response from the integration broker using the API gateway through the PeopleSoft, because the ODA will be able to access the public endpoints. So it's easier for you to expose it using the API gateway. So let's go ahead and then discuss about how you can configure and deploy a PeopleSoft chatbot on a web page. So what I'll do is I will go over the configuration steps on the PeopleSoft environment. and also show you a quick demonstration on how you can deploy the chatbot on a public instance and how you can access the chatbot or using the private PeopleSoft instance as well. So let's take a look. I'll go ahead and then share my Chrome window. So I have configured a public PeopleSoft instance. So I'm going to log in with my VP1 credentials. So this instance I've configured on a public network. So this is a marketplace image. So within Oracle Cloud, you can go to Marketplace and then install from this Marketplace image. So let's go back to our public PeopleSoft instance. So what I'm doing is that there are a few configuration steps which I need to follow before I could actually deploy the chatbot, right? So the first thing which we have talked about is to create a proxy user. So the way we create a proxy user is when you click on the navigation on the top left, on the top right, you see that there is a menu, and in that you have people tools. And when you scroll over and look up for people tools under the security, you do have something called as user profiles. When you click on the user profiles, you'll see that there is like you could create a new value. You could create like a PeopleSoft proxy. However, I already created a PeopleSoft proxy before, so I'm just going to show you the configuration here. So I've selected this is admin1 here, and then I'm going to select the ID type as none, and then I need to list these rules like PTCB user. So PTCB is like the chatbot user, and then administrator and so on. So this PeopleSoft proxy is where I'm going to use this in order to authenticate from to your RESTful services. So once I create this PeopleSoft proxy user, so the next thing which I need to do is I need to go to menu and then look up for under the people tools itself, you do have integration broker. So let's go to your integration broker, which is right here. And in here, I'm going to select configuration, and we do have service configuration. In the service configuration, if you notice that when you look up for PTCB, so this is the chatbot service RESTful service. By default, this is restricted. So make sure that this is unchecked so that like you could start accessing the RESTful services through the chatbot. So once you uncheck this and save this, the next thing which we need to do is that we need to go ahead and then disable SSL. So disable SSL for these services. So before that, let's also check the EOCB user. So the EOCB user is wherein it's like an authentication service. So by default, this is unchecked, but just make sure that like this authentication service is enabled so that like it'll help you to connect the chatbot and start previewing the chatbot outside of PeopleSoft, and then start accessing from the ODA. So the next thing which we need to do is that let's go to People Tools again, and then Integration Broker. And in the Integration Broker, we have Application Services. Let's go to Application Services, and then in Application Services, you do have something called as Application Services Security. In the administration section, we have Application Service Security. So in the token required section, just make sure that this chatbot token type is PSFT instead of OAuth 2. And also make sure that this PS authenticate GUID is disabled. All right. So once these steps are completed, so the next step is that we are going to go to global chatbot configuration. So let's go ahead and then let's look up for a global chatbot configuration. And this is where you're going to actually expose the chatbot using the channel ID to the web page. So let's go ahead and then look up for digital assistant. So when you log into your Oracle Cloud console, go here to the navigation. That is a hamburger icon on the top left. And then in the analytics section, you will see that there is digital assistant. So this is how you can go to the digital assistant page. And then you could use your digital assistant from here. So let's go to your digital assistant, and this is how the page is going to look like. So the way you can download your skill, so there are like some pre-built skills which are already available within your skill store. So what you could do is like you could extend your existing skill, that means your chatbot, and then you can start adding your own functionality to it. But however, for this demonstration, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can install the requisition bot. So let me just think I typed it wrong. Let's go ahead and then just type in PeopleSoft. And here you'll notice that there are like multiple skills here, right? So in this, what you're interested in, like for this demonstration, I'm going to like use the PeopleSoft ePro requester inquiry bot, and then I can go ahead and then pull the skill. So it's just like your app store when you're downloading your skill, which is already available. And then once you download, and then you could see that skill here on this page. So there are like some installed skills, and you could also like extend your skill. So that's what I've done. I've created a same skill, I've just extended the skill, and then I'm going to take a look at the skill. As I said, like when I so there are like some bunch of intents, entities, and dialog flow, which is all defined here. We'll come back to this in a bit. But then let's go ahead and then let's see the configuration here. When you scroll down on the configuration tab, so there are like some PeopleSoft base URL and password and so on, right? So for accessing the base URL, let's go ahead and then let's go back to your PeopleSoft instance. So let's go to global chatbot configuration. Here in this, like you'll see that there is like service configuration, service operation definitions page. So let's go ahead and select service operation definition, and then just look up for PTCB. And here there are like multiple service operations here. One is the get request, another is post request. I'm going to select the get request, and you'll see that there is like REST base URL. So this is the URL I'm going to use. But then before I could actually start using it, what I'm going to do is let's test it out. Let's click on a new tab, and then let's type in /describe. So that's what is mentioned here. So there is like a describe endpoint here, right? So I just updated this URL as /describe, and then update the username and password, give it a username and password. You'll see that these are all the application services which are being exposed. All right. So these are the application services which are being exposed, and then we'll start accessing this application service based on the service ID on your digital assistant. So I'm going to copy this, and this is exactly the same URL. I'm going to paste it here in my digital assistant platform. Here, so this is the URL, complete URL I've pasted here. Similarly, like there is a basic authentication URL as well. So this is the EOCB APPL SVC. So this is the service for authentication, as I mentioned before. So let me go ahead and then let's see where I can find this, right? So let's go back and then look up for another service called EOCB. And in the get service method, you'll see that there is like the API endpoint. And by default, just make sure that this is active. So by default, this checkbox is inactive. If you're using a marketplace image, just make sure that this is active. And then you could also enable the any to local service. And once you do that in the handler section, make sure that the status is active as well, just to make sure that this authentication service is working fine. So use the same authentication service in your digital assistant as well. And then update your PeopleSoft username and proxy password, right? So once you do all of these steps, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and then go to your channels and then create a new channel. So a channel is where like you're exposing the chatbot to the outside world. So here we have multiple channel types. Like you have Microsoft Teams, you have Zoom app, or probably Oracle Web. So this is what we're going to use here. We can create our own Oracle Web channel. And once you create it, what happens is like it creates a channel ID, and then you are routing this particular channel to a specific skill. You can pick the list of skills from here and then route it to that particular skill. So copy this channel ID and also the URI. At the top, you'll see that there is like a URI. Copy this channel ID and URI. So this is exactly what we are going to use in our global chatbot configurations. So let me go ahead and then quickly go to my global chatbot configuration. I've updated my URI, and then I'm going to also create a new skill, and I'm going to update my new skill which I just added. Like I just gave the name as epro_sp, and then updated my application ID. So that is my channel ID, and then I gave the role name as EOCB client user. So once this is done, so the next step is that I'm going to like submit this and then enable this chatbot. Now, once I enable this chatbot, I click on save, and then I start accessing a small chat widget on my web page. So I'm going to select this, and then what happens is like it is saying automatically detecting that I've logged in with the Kenneth's credentials. So it is detecting my username, and it's saying that, hello, I'm a requested inquiry virtual assistant. How can I help you today? So let's say I would just type in help and see what it responds. Here it is giving me the request and requisition assistant, and probably I might want to see what are my pending requisitions, right? So it is giving me a carousel wherein I can pick one of the pending transactions. I can see the transaction details, and it'll take me to that particular page. So it'll navigate me to the PeopleSoft page, and then you can either or deny this particular requisition. So I'll take a quick pause and then please go ahead and then ask questions in the chat window. I'll be more than happy to answer after we close out this session. All right, so what we'll do is that this is about deploying on a PeopleSoft chatbot on a public instance. So we have went through the step-by-step configuration in detail. So however, how would you access your private PeopleSoft instance? Here, like when you take a look, I've configured my private PeopleSoft instance. You can see that there is a private subnet. And in the same virtual cloud network, I've configured a Windows instance so that I can access the private PeopleSoft instance from my Windows instance. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm using a Mac. So that's the reason I'm going to use my Microsoft Remote Desktop. And in the Microsoft Remote Desktop, I've already I'll just close this out. So this is my Windows Server 2012 R2 server machine. And I've just ran this command to find out what is my PeopleSoft URL. So let me go ahead and then use that URL in my Google Chrome window. So this is my private PeopleSoft instance, and from my Windows instance, I'm accessing the private PeopleSoft instance, which is in the same virtual cloud network. So I'll go ahead and log in to my system. And in here, it's the same exact steps which I've followed in for a public PeopleSoft instance. But however, let's see what is the only difference between these two chatbots. So what I've done is when you go here and then when you look up for your service operation definitions. So as I said, we need to expose the chatbot REST services. So here, this endpoint, which is there, I'm going to copy this endpoint and I'm accessing this endpoint from the API gateway. So let's go ahead and see how we're configuring the API gateway. So here I've already opened up the API gateways. So when you go to navigation on the top left, in the service developers, you'll see that there is gateways. And when you navigate to gateways, you can pick up your compartment and navigate to this page. And in here, what I'm going to do is I'll create my own gateway. So just make sure that this gateway is deployed on the same public subnet as the instance which we have configured, as the private instance we configured. So the Windows instance and the API gateway is going to lie in the public subnet of the same VCN, right? So I've already done that for you, just for the interest of time. What we are doing is we'll go to deployments and then we'll configure two deployments. So one is for the PeopleSoft, wherein like you're accessing the PTCB credentials, and the other is for the EOCB for authentication service. So let's take a look at how we are configuring. Here we have added like the path prefix, that is PSFT demo. And then there's no authentication here. We'll go ahead and then update the routes. So in the route, we are going to add the same PTCP URL which we have copied. And then we are going to also add the request path endpoints. So the reason why we add these request path endpoints is that, like, if let's say a chatbot is calling, let's say a get requisition status endpoint, right? Then it is going to append those application service name after this. So we need to make it dynamic. So that's the reason we added like a request path parameters at the end. And then the endpoints also need to be dynamic. So that's the reason we added the path prefix like this. And we added like the get and post request for this. And after we exposed this API gateway, the PTCP user, we also have to update the EOCB client user. So this is for the authentication purpose. So we have done exactly the same steps here, endpoints, and then we have added the request path endpoint here as well. So let's go ahead and then take a look at the digital assistant. So yeah, here is my digital assistant. Let's go to my homepage and then look up for PTCB, the private chatbot. Basically, both of these chatbots are exactly the same, but the APIs we are using is slightly different. So instead of using the base URL of the private PeopleSoft instance, we are using the API gateway endpoint here. So how did you use the API gateway endpoint? So we are going to like switch to your chatbot environment, and you can go to your gateway details, and in your PeopleSoft demo, you'll notice that there is like this API gateway endpoint which is generated. So copy this and use the same endpoint even in your digital assistant as well here. And once you do this, you also need to update your PeopleSoft auth URL here. Um, and then once you do that, then we are all set. Like we now configured Oracle, the password as well as the user ID. And like one more thing which I want to talk about is like if you want to see if you want to further debug the code and see where exactly the issue lies, for that like we also set up like debug level parameter. So this debug level parameter is where like the debug level 3, that means that it is going to also show you some handshakes when you start using that within like a custom component. If you start running the custom component and then taking a look at the debug status, so it'll be very helpful for you to add this parameter along with your existing bot. So our bot configuration is all set. And then you can, similar to the way we use the PeopleSoft public instance, you could exactly use the same private instance and then test it out. You could run some of these application services. So let me show you where the application services lies. So let's go ahead and then take a look at it. Here in the instance, let's go here and then look up for menu and then application services. And then in the manage application services, if you notice that there are multiple services which have been exposed. Like we do have some requisition status, you do have some item ID, get fetch status, and so on. These are all the APIs which have been exposed. And this is exactly what you're using it back in the digital assistant as well. So now that we have completed bot and ODA overview, and then we spoke about how you can configure, what is the step-by-step procedure to configure the PeopleSoft chatbot, how you can configure a private chatbot, private instance, the chatbot with the private instance, and the chatbot with the public instance. So the next step, what you're going to do is we need to know how you can debug this, right? So if you have any issues you're facing, how would you debug this, right? So as one of the things which I mentioned is to set up like the debug parameters. So let's go ahead and then do that. Let me go ahead and then go to my digital assistant instance. Let me select the PeopleSoft probably public instance and then and test it out. Here in the configuration tab, when you scroll down, you'll notice that there is like a debug level parameter which you can add. Let's go ahead and then add a debug level. And then let me copy this in the display name as well. And then add a integer variable and give it a value as 3. And then click on create. So once you do that, you should be able to also see further debugging onto your custom component. So the way the chatbot is configured is that like you do have some intents. Intents means like the intention of the user. Here, there are some intents which are already pre-configured for you. So that is like you're getting the requisition status and also like the item status as well. So these are the two things which this bot can perform. It can give you the results for. So the entities has already been configured. Like let's say if I want to like pick up item ID or requester ID, I can do that. And then we do have the dialog flow. So the dialog flow is, as I mentioned, like we do have dialog flow execution, wherein it is able to authenticate, it is able to get you the response in the most natural and conversational way. So when I said like when I opened the chatbot, it said that hi Kenneth, how can I help you today? So that means like I'm logged in with Kenneth credentials. So that's the reason it is picking up the username and it is giving you back the responses in the most in the conversational manner, right? So that it's easier for the user to understand. So that's what we are going to configure in the dialog flow engine. So the next thing is that like we do have custom components. So this is like a Node.js package. So which has already been pre-configured for you. See, these are all the application services right here, right? You'll go ahead and then click on download button. And this downloads as like a zip file. You can download as a package in your folder, and then you can save it. So once you save this component, you'll notice that the component is created in this manner. And I've already configured the Node.js in my local system, and I also installed the bots Node SDK in the terminal in this machine. So after that, the next thing which I'm going to do is like I'm going to perform npm install, and then I'm going to start the service. So once I start the service, as you see that there are like multiple components which have been exposed. So the way I run this is that like I can expose using the Ngrok. So let's say, for example, I'll just type in Ngrok HTTP 3000. So it's going to create a brand new URL for me, and this will help me to expose the components, these localhost 3000. So this we are exposing these components to your digital assistant. So let's take a look how you can configure your own external custom component. So let's go ahead and click on Add Service here. And in here, let me type in external CC, right? So let's select the service type as external and then add the components here. So mention the user ID as none and then password as none. And then let's create. So if you observed that the external component is also loading bunch of components here, which is connecting to your backend REST APIs. So what we'll do is like we'll disable this service requester and then just use the external CC. Let me just confirm. So this is disabled. So external CC is the only one which is enabled. So that's good, right? So let's start accessing the chatbot. So what is happening in the background is that um, it once I loaded the digital assistant with the updated custom component, so it is loading all of these from the backend, and you'll see all of this from your Visual Studio Code. Now, what we'll do is we will go ahead and then let's let me start accessing the chatbot from the public PeopleSoft instance page. I'll go to my homepage and then let's say hi, and then it is giving me a response. And then let's take a look at how it is configured in the background. So if you observed that there is a token which has been generated in the session URL, you could also customize your own console logs and so on, right? So you can add your own code here. So let's say retrieved, and then you mentioned the token ID, and then in the environment section, you could also configure some more variables let's say if I want to see which user has logged in, or probably what is the base URL I'm using. So I'm going to let's say use the param URL, and then let's say for example URL is, and then I just add my own logs here. You could further research on your own, but then just to give you a quick overview of how you can see whether you're getting the token, whether you're able to check the handshakes, what is the token, and probably the user. So if you see the Kenneth is the username, so if you want to see all of this information, then probably you might have to use it this way. So okay, so let's say show me recent requisitions. Then it is giving me the response. So you can further check each of these responses and see what the param URL is. So this is what I typed in just now, right? So it is giving me what is my base URL, which I'm using in the backend, and further debug it. So that being said, we have been able to debug the environment even from your external component. So once you make some changes to the backend system, you can again zip it, perform npm pack, and then pack it up and then upload it back to the digital assistant. So that being said, we have come to the end of the presentation. So before I could close out, I would like to talk about what we do. So here, I'm a part of the Oracle Code Innovate team. So we conduct events for the customers. So before I could talk about the program, let me tell you a short story. So here we have these kids who go on a fun trip to Legoland. And one thing which they enjoy the most is the Master Builder class. So the once they enter the Master Builder class, they are given a bag of disassembled Lego pieces, as you can see on this image, and then they are asked to construct these Lego pieces together. So, but then they are not given any kind of instructions before they could do that. But Master Builder is showing different ways to put these Lego pieces together. At the end of this session, the kids build these cute penguins, which is on the desk, which is kind of cool, right? So that is what a virtual code innovate is all about. So it's like a 5 half-day program wherein you get a hands-on experience on Oracle Cloud Services. So it's like a program which is completely free of cost, especially for enabling the rapid amount of knowledge sharing for the customers from the Oracle team. So our engineers will work closely with you guys to build something cool on Oracle Cloud. So you could leverage your own use case. So if you have any use case in mind, in this scenario, probably you might be interested in PeopleSoft chatbot, or you might be interested in something else, right? So you could always bring in your own use case, and then we will be building the first pass prototype along with you guys. And then at the end of this 5-day session, you'll have an opportunity to showcase your solution to your leadership team. So the way it works is that you could bring in your own use case, we'll work together, brainstorm, and then decide like whatever is in scope and what is out of scope between those 5 business days, what can be accomplished, what cannot be accomplished. And then during this session, you'll have a lot of knowledge sharing. You could have like multiple teams and have that kind of competitive spirit. We'll be using extensively the Zoom session. Wherein like we are doing everything virtually. You could have Zoom breakout rooms, and each team will be assigned one Oracle engineer, and will be working like 4 hours each day for the entire week, spending time in the most effective manner. So there's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of learning. So at the end of the session, you'll build a first pass prototype, and you'll have enough knowledge to get started on your own. So these are all the technologies which we focus on. So if you notice that most of these services are all platform as a service as well as infrastructure as a service. So if you're interested in this session or the event, or if you have any questions, please send out an email to codeinnovate_us_group.
If you like today's session, we would love to invite you back to check out our other upcoming events. We also love to hear your feedback and what topic you like us to cover in the future. Have a good day and hope to see you soon at our future events. Bye.